Hello and welcome to the React lecture series. So in this class, we are going to do the coding demo for lecture 14, which is connecting with MongoDB and Express. So let's go and get started. Um, so open the VS Code. And then this is what we have done in the previous class that we created the Express and then created a couple of routes. So first we check that this one is working. So we can run the npm start. So if you see that package.json, that how we can start. So you said if you write npm start, so it's basically called the app.js using node.mon. So we write npm start, and then it shows that express is running at port 8080. So let's send the request with the port 8080 and says welcome to the web server. Okay, so that's fine. So now we want to connect with our database, right? So let's create a file as the connection file. So let's inside my app, I'm going to create a file named connection.js. And here I'm going to connect with my MongoDB. Okay, so if you have the compass and you see that this is what we have done previously, we created a database, demo db1, and we created a collection students, and we had a couple of collections here, so we can connect with this. Okay, so how to connect? So if you see that, if you try to connect, it's basically connect with this. So it's MongoDB and then localhost at the port number, right? So if you copy this connection string from here, and then let's do this one in here, okay? So you write a function, and since MongoDB support the asynchronous function, we write asynchronous. So let's say that connection. So that will be my function. Okay, so it will be my connection function with this, and then okay, so we need to write the function keyword, and then we can paste that's what we have copied, right? So here we need to write the mongoose.connect. Okay, so we need to install the mongoose because right now we don't have the mongoose. Okay, so if you see package.json, we don't have it. So let's get another terminal where we can install the things that we need on the fly. So we write npm install mongoose. Okay, now it should show the mongoose is here. Now let's go and then input the mongoose. So write input mongoose from mongoose. Now we can connect with this. So that is mongoose dot connect, and then we can pass this string. Okay, so I want the connect function. Okay, and then we write, so that should be a string. So instead of localhost, I prefer to write this one because sometimes uh, the computer cannot resolve the localhost. So that's why I want to use this one 127.0.01, which is basically meaning the IP address for the localhost. And then we want to use await keyword. Okay. So if just need a little bit more time, we'll wait for that connection. And then we'll put this one, let's say that put this one inside a try and catch block. Um, here. So uh, create a try catch block here, and then put this thing inside the try. And then if there is any error happen, we just handle the error, write console.log MongoDB. 'Function error. 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 And then we can also say that what is the error specifically. And then if this part is successful, we can write that console.log uh, MongoDB MongoDB is running at port uh, whatever the port is 27070. That's the default port. And the other thing we also want to pass, since we want to connect with the database that we have used previously, which is the demo db1. Okay, demo db1. So I want to write exactly demo db1. Okay, so that will be my database. Okay, so I just double check demo db1. Okay, so that's my connection, and then we will export this one. So right, export default, and then write the connection. Okay, so that's our connection part. So it's super easy. You just write mongoose.connect. You need to install the mongoose before that, mongoose.connect, and then connect with that mongodb, and then this. Okay, now the collections that we want to fetch or connect with the model. Okay, so we need to create the models from the mongoose. So let's go and create a repository here. The name is the models. Okay, so we could have multiple models based on how many collections you want to create. Okay, so I'll just want to create one collection for today's class. So that's why I give models, not just model, because in future maybe we want to create multiple models. Okay, so let's go and create our students model. Okay, just student.js. Okay, and then here I need to import mongoose again, mongoose, and then we write connect, right? So write mongoose dot model. And then here we can write our model name as student. So usually the model name we start with uppercase and then singular. And then here we define our model, what the model will be look like. So it will be an object. So we pass the property and the value. So name, we could just write string, right? But I want to give multiple information, so I will define them into an object form. So say this is the type um, type type is string, and then we also can give a default value is say no name. Okay, so in case that if you are adding an objects without name, so you can write that. So that department you want to add is also type is string, and then we also give a default name. Say that CSIS. So by default, the students will go to this department. And then I also want to add a GPA field. You can add as many fields as you want when you define your model based on your need. Okay, so we say that this will be a number field, and then I want to give a minimum field that the GPA minimum, let's say the 2.0, max is 4.0, and then you also want to give a default value as say that 3.0. Okay, so that's my model, and then we assign this one to a variable called student. And okay, so that's the mongoose.model. So it will create a student model and then assign this one to a variable student. And then we basically export this one. So export default student. Okay, so we are done with the model creation and connection string. So let's go to our app.js, and then we need to import them. So let's say that we write import connection this, and then we write import student from student. Okay, so and then we need to call the connection function. Since we just defined the connection, we never call it, right? So that's why I call the connection function. If you see that again in the connection.js, we just define the function. We never call it. So from the app.js, I just call the connection function. Okay. Now, okay, there are a couple of routes that we created. It makes no sense. So just want to delete them. Okay, because here I want to show you with the database connection. Okay. So let's create our first route. Um, so that fetch route. Okay, so we want to fetch from the database. So we write app.get, and then let's say that this will be the route that it will show all the students information. And then we write a callback function here, and then we write request ras, and then we say that this is an asynchronous function, and this is the definition of the function. So we'll say that set constant, we say response is, so we write await keyword to fetch the student using the find function. Then you can give the whatever the information you want to give, but right now I want to fetch all the students, so I am not giving any condition. Okay, so let's say that we want to put this one inside a try catch block. That's always good when you want to do the database interaction, and then you see that whether any error happening, and then you want to exactly see that what the error is happening, right? So write console, okay, let's say that you want to send this error. Okay, so you write res.send, and then say database fetching error, and then we can say what is the error is. Okay, and then we can also send the status code, which is say 500 for database or server error. And then here we can send this one res.status, say 200 is the status code, with the send is whatever the raw response is. That response, I have a typo here, say response. Okay, so you see that this route, what is fetching from the collection. So the student will automatically internally will connect with the students collection. Okay, and s will be lowercase. So if you see our MongoDB that we created, the students collection, we have a couple of documents at there. Now our server is running, and then we can check that whether this one is sending. So right now it just send the response, and we are not basically getting, you are not processing the response. It's just a raw response, but we'll do this processing through the React component from the future class. Okay, so let's see our route. So let me see that is there is running. It says error module. Okay, what is the error? It said, okay, let me see what module error is. Okay, so if I write npm start, it says module not find. Okay, so we need to see that. Did you mean import connection.js? Okay, so we need to, since this is the JavaScript, so we need to write the specific extension. Okay, so now it's fine. Okay, but in React, we don't need to write the JS. So, but in here, we need to write the specific extension. Okay. So now if I see this is fine, working fine, and then let's say that we see, okay, so let's see that what is the MongoDB is running this, and then server is running. Okay, so that's fine. Both of them are running. Now I want to fetch the students, right? Students, and it shows that these are the students, right? I have in the database. Okay. So if you just quickly check from the compass, these are the information that I have. These are the documents. So based on your database, it will show that what is in there. Okay, so that means our first route is working. Now, if you want to give any condition, let's say that I want to see a specific student, okay? So we can do this, okay? So we can say fetch a student by name. Okay, so if you want to fetch by name, and then let's say that this one will be a student with the name. Okay, so if you give the student a name, and then we can see that, okay, that student with a specific name of it. So we write the condition here. Okay, so we write the condition is name, and then whatever the value, that's the parameter is giving us. Okay, so we need to extract that parameter information. So write constant name equal to we write request dot params dot name. Okay, so from the parameters we want to extract the name, and then that name I'm passing as a condition. Okay, so now if we go to a route, let's say that I just create another request by Matt. Yeah, and it shows the student name Matt. Okay, so if you don't have Matt, let's say that, and it's basically giving an empty array because the student does not exist, right? So based on the empty array, you can write in the React component that what we want to display, right? And then if the students is there, then you can also display, because this is a raw JSON. So we're just displaying that, but we need to process it at the front end, okay? So we'll do that later. Um, Now this is how you can fetch, right? Let's say that you want to insert a student, okay? So let's say that I copy this route, and then I will call the insert route, okay? Insert route, and then we'll say, so first we can say that if you don't pass anything, okay, then we'll create an insert route here. So we'll give the name as insert, okay, and then we'll say await student, and then let's say that we don't want to give initially anything. We'll just say student dot insert one, okay, insert one, and then just empty object, okay. So what do you expect that if you call this route, so one student will be inserted, okay. So what will be inserted since you're not passing any information? So it will go based on how you define the model. So model has, these are the default value, no name, default department is this one, and default credit is GPA is this. So this student should be inserted, right? So let's see that if I go to the insert route, so right, localhost 8080 insert, and then it shows that this student has been inserted, no name, department this, right? And then if you can fetch it, you say that, okay, refresh and see that this is the student that has been added, okay, the no name, department. And same thing you can also see from the compass, you see that this student has been added, okay. Now, so let's say that you want to insert a student by giving your information, okay? So either you can just write here, or maybe you can write here. Let's say the constant, say new student. So this one we are just writing hard-coded because, you know, usually it will come from the user, right? So that will come from the front end. So you write name. Let's say that Chase, okay, and then let's say that I will just give the GPA field and not the department, okay. So the department will be the default, which is coming from okay, so I made a typo here, GPA, and GPA just a number, okay. So that's the new student. And then now I'm going to insert this new student. Okay. So now if I call the insert route, it should insert this chase with the GPA 3.99, and the department will be the default which we assign in the student model. Okay. So let's go and check it. So if I go to insert route this time and refresh, and then it says chase is added with the default department name is this and GPA is this. So if you want to see in here and say that chase is added. Okay, so we have seen the how to insert route works, right? Now let's go and do the update route. Okay, so I'll just copy this one and then insert, so update route. Okay, update route. So here I'll just change it to the update and then what you want to update. Okay, so let's say that we want to update the GPA, so we'll just extract that information from the parameters. So we write new GPA, and then we extract from request dot params and dot GPA, and then we write update one. Okay, and then so when you do the update, first you need to do the searching, and then you need to do what you want to update. So let's say that we want to search by name. Okay, so we can do name is Chase. We just updated, just added, and then we want to set. So set is an operator, so you need to give this dollar sign, and then we want to say that I want to just update this one with the 4.0. Okay, so that's our update route. Okay, so update, we are extracting the GPA from the parameters, and then we update this student with this GPA, and then let's see. Okay, so let's check our update route. So right now, and the chase has 3.99. Let's say that we want to write localhost update, and then let's say that we want to give 4.0 for this student, and set modified count 1, match count 1. So let's check that whether the chase will be updated, and it shows the GPA is 4. Okay, so that means the update route is also working. Now I want to do the delete route. So let's do this. So delete route. And then here, let's say that I want to delete. We also need the condition, right? So let's say that I want to delete by name. And then you can also delete by ID as well. Then you need to pass the ID. I want to, just for this example, I will just delete by name and then say delete one. Okay, delete one, and then for delete I just need to pass the condition, right? So we'll say that, okay, the name chase should be deleted. Okay, so here we need to extract the name, not the GPA, because I am passing the name, and then let's say that this is the name. Okay, and the name is not hard-coded chase, we'll say name is name. Okay, so what we are doing now, you see, so this is important. When you want to copy and paste from another route, you need to take care of everything. Okay, so let's say that delete, this is your route, and then you're passing the name, so you extract the name, and then you say student.delete one, and then you want to delete by name, so the name field, so you see in that your field name is name, so that's why we write name, and then our value is coming from here, and then let's see that whether the delete is working or not. Yeah, so we'll go for another route is the delete. So localhost delete, and then pass, let's say that we want to give the chase, so we see that the student is there, is chase, and then if you send this request and says delete count is 1, Okay, deleted count is 1. So now if we refresh it, and so right now we have the chase in the database and says the chase is gone. The same thing you can also check in here. So if you see the refresh, and then we don't have the chase here. Okay. Uh, so this is the last one is no name, Matt, right? Okay, so we see that all these routes. Okay, so if you recap what we did, so first we need to set up the connection. Okay, so basically you need to install Mongoose, and then you write mongoose.connect, and then uh, this is the address, this is the port number, this is the database. Okay, as I said that if you have an existing database, you can connect, or if you just write a new database, it will create a new one. And then you also need the model, because the Mongoose actually work with the collection by the model. Okay, so you can write mongoose.model. Okay, and then you can define the model. You can also do the two-step process. First you can create the schema, and then from the schema you can create the model. Okay, we just did just in a single step. Now in the app.js, so we need to import the connection and the student, and then I call the connection function so that it's executed. And then we created a couple of routes. The first route is the fetching all the student. So right, so here we're just writing the model name, not the collection name. Okay, so the internally model and connection will be connected. Um, so the model dot find, and it actually retrieve all the students. And then if you search by a condition, like for example we want to search by name, so you need to give that. And then if you want to insert a student, then you need to give the body, what is basically the student information. So and then you write insert one. If you want to insert multiple students, then you need to write insert many, and then you need to give a list of student object. Okay, and then for updating by GPA, we need to first need to find which one we want to update, and then we need to give what we want to update. Okay, and then for delete, you want to delete by name, delete by ID, delete by GPA, whatever condition you want to provide, and that's is the delete. So as I mentioned, right now we are just checking all the routes directly from the browser window, because we are not sending requests through the front end, which will be the React component. So that's we are going to do in the next class. So that's it, and see you in the next class. Thank you very much.